right.
Okay, so we are all set. Maybe we can just make 1 more minute before we start.
Okay. All right, and it's asking me to record, so I don't know if I have to give permission. No, I think you're already doing it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. Good evening, all the students and counselors who have joined from across India, and welcome Alex to this session. So this is our second webinar in the series of 15 webinars on how to fill your Common App. In this webinar, Ms. Alex from Beloit College is going to share with us about what is Common App and which all colleges are there on Common App. Before we begin this presentation, let me introduce myself first. I am Devesh Lathi and I'm the program manager here at the Next Genius Foundation. Next Genius Foundation runs a scholarship program for high school students, for grade 12 students and gap year students who wish to pursue their undergraduate education in the US. Next Genius offers full and partial tuition scholarships for these students. So today we have Alex from Beloit. Hi, Alex. Very good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. And handing over the presentation to you now. Please go ahead.
Perfect. So yeah, if I'm able to here, I will begin to share my screen immediately here.
Yes.
Let's see here. Desktop one. Yes, let's do this. Share, and then I will put my presentation. Are you able to see the presentation?
Yes, though it's only on the partial screen. So.
Here we go.
Yes.
Sorry about this. Let's get this. Swap displays. Can you see this one now?
Yes, perfect.
Excellent. Okay. Yep. So I'll just begin to click through here and hope that this works well. If I'm looking in the other direction, it's because I'm referring to the presentation. Yeah. So right. So like Devesh said, my name is Alex. I work for Beloit College in Wisconsin, and I'll be presenting today just a general overview of the Common App. You know, as he mentioned, you'll have some other sessions to attend that get into more details about the specific pages, filling out different components of the application, what the pages look like. So my presentation today is just to give you an overview of what this application platform is, why so many colleges around the world use it, and just sort of some nice background information. So I appreciate you joining me today for this session. All right, so yeah, my name is Alex. I serve as Associate Director of International and Transformations at Beloit Admissions at Beloit College. I am a Beloit grad myself, so I will be a great resource for any families who eventually would like to learn more about Beloit, about what it's like to study here. And my experience at this school really does represent in a lot of ways what we're hoping other students will find there in terms of level of engagement and just what I really enjoyed about my time there. So you can find me. I'll put this slide up at the end again as well, in case you have any questions about the Common App or about Beloit College. You'll know how to reach me at the end of it. So here we go. What is the Common App? So app is short for application. The Common Application is, I think, the world's first single online college application that is used by multiple universities and colleges, over 800 colleges and universities, so post-secondary institutions across all US 50 states and across 20 countries around the world. I included a map there right off of the Common App website, so you can see it really is primarily in the US. It looks like when they did this map, it was 750 in this region and then 91, but 42 universities and colleges in Europe already use Common App. I think I read something about how 40 plus were added just this year. So the Common App is growing very, very quickly, and for good reason. Looks like we have 7 in Asia. Looks like China and Japan maybe using that one. So the idea behind the Common App, as you know, in the US in particular, every post-secondary institution is an autonomous entity. So, we have some colleges and universities that are public that might exist within some kind of system or larger, collection of schools, like University of California, Davis, University of California, Berkeley, anything like that. But still, each institution in the US is autonomous in determining its own admission criteria, admissions process, deadlines, scholarship offerings. So, leading up to now, it's been a very individualized application process for students in the US and abroad who are interested in pursuing studies in the US in particular. So, you may have heard the expression that applying to college can be a full-time job, and it certainly was for me in the early 2000s when I was going through this process and before we had any kind of Common App like this. So the purpose of the CommonApp, the organization that put this together, is to simplify the process for students all around the world. And also to increase access, for those for whom the time, in some cases, financial commitment involved in even applying to a university can be a barrier. So the CommonApp exists in such a way that there's generally, I think, no application fee, or at least often no application fee to the students. Instead, it's the universities and colleges that will shoulder that burden. So there's no separate fee to a student for applying through the Common App. Some institutions will still have some kind of application fee that they then add themselves. Beloit College is not one of them, but still, so the idea is to increase access to that application process itself and to streamline it as much as possible. So yeah, instead of filling out the same general information like your demographics, your grade point average, the activities you've done a dozen times potentially, you would just be filling it out once. And so then the dashboard, so when you log on to your account within the Common App on their webpage, you're able to track the different applications to different schools all on one page. And if you're applying to schools individually, there's no holistic way to track where you are with each application. So students can better manage their whole application process and that whole, often years timeline of applying to different schools and just sort of stay on top of it. So all of these are fantastic things, and universities are generally quite happy to get involved, I think. So history of the Common App, right? So it started 40 years ago, which I honestly didn't realize until recently that the Common App had been around so long. So these discussions started so far back already, when they were, colleges were trying to decide, how can we make this easier for students? So, it began as an experiment with them. We had, I think 15 colleges in the beginning that signed on to this platform. And then little by little, it started growing. So by the time, again, that I'll keep referencing my college search, because in some ways it was pre all of the web, platforms for doing this. And in some ways it was still recent enough, but I don't believe that that I used the Common App when I was applying for colleges back in the early 2000s. So this would have simplified my process substantially. And so, we're all hoping the next Genius partner institutions and, and US universities in particular who use the Common App are really hoping that it can simplify the process for students in the US and students everywhere. So yeah, each year, more than 1 million students, the Common App reports, a third of whom are first generation, so whose parents did not complete a college education. More than 1 million students apply to college, research financial aid and scholarships, and connect to counseling resources through the Common App. So it's really more than just an application platform. It's trying to increase access to college education and all the resources involved across the world in a lot of ways. So, just some small noble goals for this organization, but we're happy to be a part of it. So which colleges accept the Common App? There are, as I mentioned, almost 900 institutions across the world, mostly in the US, that accept the Common App. And so this was a screenshot right off of the Common App website, where I'm showing you how you can search. So if you and your families are starting to narrow down the college list, you've got, maybe 10 or 5 to 10 universities and colleges around the world that you're considering. It's very easy for you to go on and just search and see if that institution happens to be using CommonApp. So right on the first page, you go to Explore Colleges, you can type in, and then if the name appears, then they accept CommonApp. So then your job just got a little easier, and you know you'll be able to use the CommonApp to apply to that institution. So it is a very, very varied list of institutions that have agreed to accept CommonApp. Beloit is a small private liberal arts school. We accept it. We've got some Big Ten schools, some Ivy League schools, you know, some tech kind of universities, engineering colleges. So it's not only a certain kind of school that accepts CommonApp. And yeah, so it's worth checking. I imagine many of the schools you might be considering, especially in the US, are probably on CommonApp. So I have the website right there. If you just go into Google though and type CommonApp college search or something general, you'll find it almost immediately. So I had some fun earlier while preparing for this, just typing in all the different university names I could think of, and just was happy to see that so many of them were indeed on this. And I checked with Divish and all of the Next Genius partner schools that you'll be hearing from today, and hopefully, you know, staying in contact with over the course of the fall, do indeed accept CommonApp. So if that makes your process a little easier for the next couple of months, we're happy about that. But there are some schools who do not accept CommonApp. So it was worth talking a little bit here about in what cases schools might not accept this and why. I mean, it sounds so fantastic and streamlined and easy and all of this, but as I mentioned earlier, there is a cost involved to the institution in order to be able to accept CommonApp. So this expense relates to the hardware and software we need in order to receive and review applications. All universities and colleges, I kind of use them interchangeably in this sense. We all have some kind of software, some kind of process for managing application data, for reading them, and for processing those admission decisions. It's all IT now, as opposed to files upon files upon files. So all of us already have some kind of system for doing this, but CommonApp requires its own compatibility, its own mapping, it's everything. So there is a cost involved to the institution, and depending on how that budget looks, where the institution's priorities are, what it's capable of, that can affect whether it's able to make that decision to join CommonApp. And schools like Beloit College that do not charge an application fee to our applicants, or those who just do not receive a lot of applications, they'd have to absorb the expense too. So it doesn't always make sense for an institution to opt into CommonApp. Also, the benefit to the applicant is that you needn't fill out the same information over and over and over again. However, some colleges do not like this cookie cutter questions. They don't like that they're getting very general information from the student. Beloit College is one of those institutions that reviews very holistically. So we look at every single application carefully. We don't just base our admission decisions on a GPA or some kind of test, metric. We don't just kind of move forward that way. So, there is a lot of benefit to making sure that as an applicant, you are creating a very individualized picture of yourself to the institution. So, there are some drawbacks to having all generic questions and generic info fields for colleges that like to review applicants in a particular way. Also, some schools in the US, as I mentioned, might be part of a larger system. An institution I worked for before Beloit was like this. It was a public school that existed within a university system. And in cases like that, there are sometimes rules, regulations, processes that those individual institutions have to follow. And apologies about, in case the sound gets a little off here, the fun part about working from home is that you get all the random sounds from your house. So I'm hoping that this is still legible and that you can hear me as well. So yeah, so again, sometimes it's not just up to the institution as to whether they can opt into CommonApp. Sometimes they have to follow guidelines from the state or from a larger system that the school operates within. So some of the very common schools that, that students are sometimes surprised to see are not on the Common App. MIT is always the biggest one. MIT might have its own reasons for not joining it. University of California schools, I didn't find any of them on there. University of Washington schools, so UC Davis, UC Berkeley, UCLA, none of those appeared, but as you'll see, University of California and University of Washington are public systems. However, University of Wisconsin-Madison is on Common App. So, sometimes there are trends as to, what would choose or what would make a university want to be on Common App, and then sometimes it's just up to that school. So it's always just worth checking. Once you've narrowed your list down, just type it in and see if it's on there. I also did not find community, so 2-year colleges and technical colleges, so like 2-year technical schools. The random ones that I searched, I was not able to find. So maybe there are some 2-year schools, but it seems to be mostly 4-year undergrad and grad institutions that use Common App. Also, Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, I did not see on there. I've traveled with them a lot on the road, especially in India. So I thought that might be on someone's radar as well. Did not see them on there. And also in my deeper search for who's on it and who's not, I noticed that about 200 schools do not accept Common App for transfer applications, but that 800 plus number that I touted before, that seems to be the ones who accept it for first-year applicants right out of secondary school. So, if you're considering starting college somewhere and then transferring, just know that there might be some differences as to whether the institution you're considering will accept Common App for a transfer application, or if they will just do it for first year. So yeah, some colleges offer several application options. Which do I choose? So, I mentioned some reasons why some schools might not be on Common App at all. Some schools will offer you more than one option of applying, including Common App as one of them. Beloit College is one such school. So we have our own Beloit College application, and we accept Common App. So in cases like that, sometimes it's hard to know which one to choose or if there are benefits to choosing one or the other. Since I talked about how some schools don't really like how general the questions can be in Common App, so they prefer to get to know an applicant better by using their own application. So then in cases like that, where the school offers its own and Common App, should you then just choose the school's own application? And that's just really going to vary by school. We should not weigh applications differently based on the source of the application. At Beloit, for example, we accept both. We don't really prefer one or the other. We just want to have more than one option for students. I think the vast majority of our students will use Common App just because it's easier for them. They're able to manage the process better. And there are other ways for the student to get to know us through the course of the application process. We do Skype interviews, Zoom interviews. If they would like to submit additional documents, which you'll see in these later sessions in how to do that, we will read everything a student sends us. So if you're concerned that filling out Common App means that you're not going to be able to tell your whole story specifically to Beloit, there are ways of doing that. But yes, we offer 2 application options. We don't have a preference for one or the other. We don't charge an application fee for either. So, you just have that option. But I just encourage you, once you've again narrowed down that list to a manageable amount, reach out to the admission counselors. People like me, they can honestly tell you, oh, I really prefer reading Common App, or I really prefer the way that our school has this one set up. So just talk to them and see which one they like. In some cases, there might be a preference. Another concern on the part of some institutions is that because Common App is so easy, because it is so streamlined, it makes it quite easy for students to add the name of a school and to apply to that institution, even if they are underqualified, even if they have no real intention of going. So it can be difficult for universities to assess an honest level of interest on behalf of the applicant. If the applicant has applied to 12 to 15 schools through Common App, which many applicants do, do they really have an equal level of interest and engagement and commitment to each of those institutions? It can be hard for us sometimes. And I believe I'd want to double check on this, but I think we can see what other schools a student has applied to sometimes. I need to double check on that. But so often, if that's the case, that means we can see how many other schools a student is listing. And if there's 20 institutions on that list, then we're like, okay, where do we really fall on the student's radar? How interested are they actually in attending? So, right. So some colleges prefer to pre-screen eligibility and interest level by encouraging students to complete another application, a separate one. Demonstrating an interest to an institution is still important. I mean, that still comes into play. We want to see that you are seeking out our institution for some reason or another. Like, we want to know that we might be a good fit and that you'd be interested in potentially studying at our school. The same way that we are trying to assess fit with you as an applicant, you're trying to assess fit with us. So, the more conversations we can have, the more we can get to know each other as an applicant and an institution, the better the process will be for everyone. So we're just trying to find ways to get to know our applicants in the best way possible and to see, who might be really successful on our campus. So like I said, some schools will seek to increase access by having multiple options like Beloit, but we do not really review one application with more preference than another. Always ask. I can speak for my institution. I cannot speak for others in terms of how they like to manage their application process, how they like to assess their applicants. But people in positions like mine, it's our job to be transparent and be open and be communicative with you about questions like this. So please never hesitate to ask an admissions officer. So how do you access CommonApp? You can either go directly to the CommonApp website at commonapp.org. Right there, you will see search colleges, my applications. You can kind of see all of your spreadsheets there. I can continue sharing my screen and go through it if that would be helpful. But I imagine my peers at the other institutions later on this morning will be doing that for me. So they'll be taking you through the CommonApp, I'm sure. You can also generally find the CommonApp through the website that the individual institution has. So, every school is going to list their application requirements on their website somewhere. And generally they will link you directly to the CommonApp if they are a CommonApp school. So here we see the Beloit College admissions webpage under international students, although we accept it for our domestic students as well. Right there, you can see required application components, Beloit College app, or common application. So there we are. Both links are right there. You can click right on it from the Beloit College page, and it should take you to the same CommonApp webpage that you would find on your own through a Google search. So very easy to find the app. And then, like I mentioned before, once you've created your login and you have your own kind of personal dashboard within CommonApp, you will be able to track all the applications for all the different institutions that you've done. It's wonderful. It actually sends you prompts if you're missing information too. It's fantastic. So I submitted the CommonApp. When does the college receive it? Generally, it'll take just 1 to 2, that should be 24 to 48, business hours for the institution to receive the completed application. So since it's going through kind of a third-party portal that works with different institutions, all the information is received by CommonApp itself, and then it's kind of disseminated to the university partners that way. So if you've hit send and you're 12 hours away in time zone and you haven't heard from a college in a day, be a little patient, because sometimes we are not able to access that information until it's released by CommonApp. It's generally very, very quick, but I know that, this is a very stressful process sometimes, and students are really excited to get updates. But yes, please know that there is that slight lag between when you hit send on your side and the college is actually able to see your materials. In the CommonApp, you'll see if you attend the later sessions, there are ways for you to upload documents directly into the CommonApp. And each institution that uses CommonApp will tell you, will tell Common App if they want to allow that feature. Some are very specific about how you submit your records. Some require them to be in paper with a stamp, sealed, from the institution. Others are a little more flexible, but each institution has to decide how it's going to determine the authenticity of the documents it receives. Some of them are more comfortable reviewing items that have been uploaded directly into Common App. Others aren't. So as you're moving through the application for each institution in Common App, you'll see some of them will allow this and some won't. So, in case there are discrepancies there, that's why. Each school still determines its own process, determines what it needs, how it needs to see them in order to determine their authenticity, and how it processes that. So for Beloit, for example, we do offer you the option of uploading some of those financial documents and academic records, but we also give you the option of emailing them separately. Each school will have on its application page very specific language about how it needs to see these materials. So that's the piece I would really recommend you spend a lot of time on the individual university web pages, as opposed to trying to discern it through Common App, because not only for an admission decision, but also for to proceed with the F1 visa process, in order for the school to issue an I-20. We have to be able to verify for ourselves and for the US government that these documents are true and authentic. So anyway, so if there are big differences from school to school in terms of how they need to see documents, please be understanding, that we're all trying to hold all of our students to the same standard and ourselves to the same standard. So yeah, and a lot of colleges can actually see if you have started the Common App but have not yet submitted it. If you started the Common App and you've selected Beloit College and you stopped halfway through, or you never actually hit send on the end, we can see that. So then we can reach out to you and say, hey, it looks like you started it. Can I help with anything? Or, do you need any information from me? Sometimes a student thinks they've sent it and they haven't actually. So it's actually really nice for us to be able to see, oh, it looks like we've got 15 students that have stopped somewhere in the process. Let's see if we can help them. So it's nice in a lot of ways. So yeah, so that concludes the general overview of Common App. As I mentioned, my colleagues at the different Next Genius partner institutions will be chatting with you throughout the course of the morning and maybe even afternoon about the different pages of the Common App and some of those intricacies of how to upload, how to find stuff. And I'm seeing these pictures now are a little blurry. Sorry about that. But yeah, so as Divish said, I'm going to spend a couple minutes here just talking about Beloit College, just as an introduction for you. And then I'll look forward to, to answering questions as possible after this. So Beloit College, my institution, we are a small private liberal arts college. We are actually the oldest college in the state of Wisconsin. We were founded in 1846, and this is before Wisconsin was even actually a state. It was still a wild Western territory, during that time. So Beloit is as old, if not older than the state it's in. Long-standing reputation and tradition of serving our state. We are nationally ranked, and this is all available on our website, but our ranking generally calls out the quality of undergrad teaching, the level of diversity on our campus. We're really top notch in terms of students who graduate from our undergraduate education and go on to pursue doctorates. One of the fields for that is anthropology, which I studied, so that's kind of fun to see. Excuse me. And we are also called out nationally for the quality of our advising and mentorship. So Beloit College is a teaching college as opposed to a research institution. So that doesn't mean that there are no research opportunities for students. It just means that faculty choose Beloit as their faculty home because they love to teach, love to mentor. It means they are very accessible. They have more office hours. They have a very open door policy when it comes to meeting with students, mentoring them, helping them identify opportunities for internships and research and other applied learning. the faculty are really there for the students first and foremost. Sometimes with research institutions, even though there might be more research opportunities, the faculty time is really split between the instruction and between their own research. So, there are benefits and drawbacks to both, but at Beloit, we want to add value to the educational experience for you by having more access to the faculty members who are passionate about fostering student success. So if I had to describe Beloiters in one sentence for you in terms of what makes us different and unique, what sets us apart is our students are avid scholars, they are involved practitioners, and they are global change agents. And these descriptors speak to we are a selective institution. We want students who love to learn, who love to push themselves and challenge themselves. We want students who are going to be involved outside the classroom, who understand the benefits of being in student organizations and, running events and, giving back to the community. We want students who aren't just going to study and, go home and sleep and go to class and then go home and study and sleep. We want someone who's going to really take advantage of everything we have to offer here. And global change agents. We have been 20% or more international for decades and decades and decades. So Beloit is really well known for being a very diverse campus. So not only does that mean that you will be in classes with people from all over the world and that the campus community is diverse, but it also means that a global mindset and commitment to international education runs through every fiber of what we are at Beloit. It affects the curriculum and how it's designed. It affects the faculty who find their way to Beloit, the relationships that they build all around the world. The world is our classroom. So Beloit's commitment to international education just works for the benefit of everyone. It's one of the reasons I chose this school myself. It just makes it more relevant and more enriching education for everyone. So the location advantage to put us on the map here, Beloit is located in Wisconsin. So there we are right toward the top of the US map there with the blue heart. Beloit College is about 2 hours away, 2.5 hours away from Chicago, Illinois, which is the third largest city in the US. Chicago is right along that long skinny lake there, Lake Michigan. So we are close to one of those biggest cities in the US. Milwaukee, Wisconsin is actually where I live and where I'm Zooming from today. So about an hour and a half away from one of the biggest cities in Wisconsin. Madison is also a major city about 40 minutes away from Beloit, and Rockford, Illinois. So Beloit, it's situated between some major metropolises in the Midwest. And therein also located close to Chicago O'Hare International Airport, which is one of the largest in the US. The benefit there is that you wouldn't be bouncing from airport to airport to airport to airport to bus to streetcar to get to our campus. You can fly into one of the major airports in the world and take a bus and you'll be at Beloit in no time. So that really does reduce stress on the front end and the tail end. And Beloit College is located in the small city of Beloit, Wisconsin, about 37,000 residents, which in the US is considered fairly small, but Beloit is a city. So it has a bustling downtown. It has all the amenities that you would need: library, farmer's market, school system, healthcare system, shopping. So in the US, being in a small city, even being in a small city in a somewhat rural environment, does not mean that there are no resources or that the students will be in the middle of a cornfield. Beloit is still a bustling city, and its downtown has grown and become so much more beautiful since even I was there. So I'm quite jealous of our current students who get to take advantage of this wonderful downtown. So you get a really nice balance of being in a small city, a beautiful small campus, a manageable size, but being close to all the benefits of these large cities like Chicago, Madison, Milwaukee. So what we often call this region of these cities I keep mentioning is the Midwest Research Triangle. That speaks to the level of technology, healthcare, arts, research, centers, epicenters that exist right in this region, even just between Chicago and Beloit. there are dozens and dozens and dozens of Fortune 500 companies based there. So the internship, the research, the networking opportunities for you in studying at Beloit are endless. You're not in the middle of nowhere in any way, shape, or form. And our students take advantage of the employers and the networks, just even in that 2-hour radius around Beloit, very well. And for students interested in the natural sciences, environmental studies, even just in this region here, you have multiple different ecosystems, geological, environmental research opportunities, some fascinating archaeological sites and elements on Beloit's campus and beyond. So those who are really interested in studying the natural earth and human occupation over millennia, there are opportunities right there in Beloit, even literally on Beloit's campus to do that. But Wisconsin does enjoy all 4 seasons. So anything really, halfway through that US map and up, you're going to see all 4 seasons. So we have winter, we have a stunning fall, but our students really, really enjoy all 4 seasons on campus and off. We don't want anyone to shy away from the idea of studying in, the northern US because of the cold. Our students are just fine. Our Next Genius scholars from the prior years can certainly speak to the ways that they've enjoyed winter at Beloit. We happen to be on a stunning campus. So all year round, there is such beauty to find. And there's, something to be said for the change of the seasons and how that brings balance and perspective to you. So I can talk a lot about the benefits of being in a climate with 4 seasons, with a winter, with a summer. It's not something to, hopefully deter you from considering a school. Beloit College, we have 1,200 students, 20% of our class is international, which a lot of institutions will strive for 10%, like their goal will be that. So Beloit's international population has always been true and has been a benefit to the institution. We are known for a high level of engagement in and outside the classroom. And so that's what we look for in applicants, someone who is interested in engaging and building those critical social skills, those soft skills outside the classroom too. I want to see someone who's interested in something and who shows me that they're putting the time into pursuing that, however that means. So a campus that feels like home, I added that one because to me it does. It feels like home because of the warm community, the faculty members who care, the staff members who care, and just feeling like you're part of a community of learners and people who are adventurous and want to really take advantage of these years. Beloit is a small campus. It's walkable, it's manageable. It feels like home. It's a manageable college experience for those who don't want to spend their time catching a bus to get to class on time across the city, but who just want it to be around them to really live it up in a residential campus experience. So these are really the 4 pillars, I think, of a Beloit education: community, mentorship, academics, and leadership. Mentorship, I've talked about faculty as mentors. We have designed a very, very, very engaging advising program that connects our students with advisors within 3 days of committing to Beloit. Generally in the US, the advisor-advisee relationship begins only once you've started classes. But we want you to hit the ground running. We want you to know where you're going, to know what you're doing by the time you set foot on our campus. So building that relationship with your advisor from day one really is our way of doing that. So our advisors are there to really introduce you to campus, to show you what all is there for you, to help you build those networks and start defining what you want your path to be from day one. In the US, in many, many, many cases, you don't actually declare a major or a course of study until after you arrive on campus, until after you've started taking classes. So if you're applying to an engineering school or some of those very specific ones, sometimes you are admitted into that school. But in many other cases, in liberal arts schools, for example, you are admitted to the university as a whole, and then you declare your major. So building a relationship with an advisor who's going to help you explore the breadth of what's available to you is critical. So we do that. And yeah, career channels is basically the way that our mentors help you put your interest into practice, find internships, research, practicum, field experience, ways to really connect your academic interests with career directions. So we do that very, very well, I think. 10 to 1 student to faculty ratio. Small classes, faculty who care, who want to be creative in how they're delivering their curriculum, who want you to weigh in and participate. That's really what a Beloit education is. In academics, 60 areas of study and more. We are liberal arts, but that doesn't mean that we only offer the arts. We have engineering, we have a lot of STEM programs, mathematics, physics, we have computer science, data science, business and entrepreneurship, anthropology, art history, photography, dance, everything under the sun. And our curriculum really does focus on applied and engaged learning, participatory learning. And we really want students to get out of the classroom as much as they are in it in order to really put that learning into practice. Leadership is really our fourth pillar. It really it speaks to how our campus leadership is always looking forward, is really concerned with how best to make a Beloit education transformative, impactful, and bold. Some of these changes that we've enacted with this advanced mentoring program, with these career channels, with even the way that we're structuring our semester coming forward, is our interest in adapting, in being nimble, not only to the realities that the COVID pandemic is creating and for how curriculum is delivered online or hybrid. Now is the time to be flexible. But even beyond COVID, we really want to rethink how our students absorb the information, how they want to connect with job opportunities later down the line, how they really want their education to look. And we are listening to that and we're acting on it. So Beloit really has a long history of being adaptive and being bold in its education, which we're immensely proud of. So our identity is strong and long lasting, but it is not stagnant. And I think that it's a university's job to be forward thinking, to help define what education means and what makes education relevant in any given time period. And that's what we're doing. So yeah, I think I've got a couple minutes here. I wanted to leave my information up. Devesh,